Hey, what is up, everybody? I am here to give you another SpongeBob review, so let me just get right into it. Let me pull up my, thing. So, this episode is Season 2, Episode 3. This episode is called Something Smells. And you're gonna see what I mean by that in a couple of minutes. And this episode originally aired on October 26, 2000. So yeah, the first episode in the season came out in November. This one came out in October, so I'm not really getting that. Maybe they aired one first. I don't know. But let me talk about this episode. So, this episode started out with SpongeBob. He wakes up, his alarm clock wakes him up, and then he uses his blanket as a cape so he can have his alarm clock blow him over to this big calendar that he has, and it's Sunday. And every Sunday he likes to make a sundae for breakfast. It's kind of cheesy, but I guess it fits. It makes sense because it is Sunday. It makes sense. So, he's making a sundae. He doesn't have any ice cream because I don't know. And so instead of using ice cream, he uses ketchup, which is, is pretty gross to use on a sundae. I like ketchup, but I wouldn't want to use it to make a sundae. It's just kind of gross. And then he goes to use the toppings like bananas and cherries, but he finds that boring. So instead he uses onions, which keep that in mind. And he has Gary play the music because he starts to tear up because, when you cut onions, there's something in there that makes your eyes tear up. So that he starts cutting them, and he actually gets them all into the bowl, which was pretty impressive. So then he goes to use the peanuts for, which by the way, I don't who puts peanuts on ice cream? I don't really get that. And it's completely empty, and he tells Gary about it, so then Gary burps, which pretty much references the fact that Gary finished them. So then he has this peanut plants that are growing on the windowsill that's completely dead. So then he just dumps the whole thing in the bowl, and he made his sundae. And keeping in mind it was ketchup, onions, and peanuts. A peanut plant that's completely dead, and he actually that he dumped the whole thing in. So he eats it, and Gary just kind of takes off because he doesn't want to eat it. I don't blame him. The ketchup even looked pretty bad. So when he gets out, the kitchen completely smells because if you put all those, mixtures together, they smell. And SpongeBob ends up having bad breath. So keep that in mind. So then he says he tells Gary there's nothing like Sunday morning. He said it like that because, and you can actually see his breath. So anytime he talks, you can see how bad his breath is, which I thought was kind of a nice touch in this episode. So when he talks, the words morning pop up on Gary, and he smells it, and he ends up dying. I guess he died or passed out because SpongeBob's breath smelled that bad. So then in the next scene, SpongeBob is looking at his to-do list because he normally has a to-do list. He has a big to-do list when it tells him to go to work, and he has a big list. And he's like, "Well, that's not right. I need the one for Sunday." And the only one that he has for Sunday is to say hi to everybody in Bikini Bottom, which I think it makes sense to do this for the plot in the episode. So then he goes to say hi. He says hi to this one guy, but then he smells his breath and walks off. SpongeBob doesn't understand. What I don't get is why didn't SpongeBob brush his teeth after he just ate a rancid sundae like that? I don't get it, but just go with it. And then he says hi to the male fish, and the male fish breaks into a bunch of people on the inside, kind of like those Chinese toys where they have the egg and then smaller versions of them come out. That's exactly what happened with this male fish. He says hi to the crossing guard. She smells them. She ends up running away, and the kids are happy because the crossing guard stopped her, and then then they get to leave, and then a band, like a high school band, pops up and starts playing, and SpongeBob says hi to all the performers, and his breath is like a bowling ball. So when it gets shot at, it goes into all the high into the high school band, and they use this bowling pin. They get taken down. They run off, and SpongeBob says, "This is weird. Something's weird going on today. Everybody keeps running away from me. He doesn't understand why everyone keeps running away from him." So then he sees a giant. So then he sees a big pink blob on the bench, and he says, "Giant piles of bubble gum. Oh, what next?" And yeah, it was really, it was really kind of weird to see a giant pile of bubble gum. But it ends up being Patrick. I think he was sleeping and he was like curled up into a ball. And SpongeBob tells Patrick that everybody keeps running away from him, and he goes to show him. Now this scene is really weird because what I assumed happened is SpongeBob says hi to the building, and the building runs off because of his breath, which isn't logical because how can a building smell somebody's breath? But the thing happens is there's a glitch. I guess there's a mess up. Instead of hearing that, you hear the next scene afterwards that happens. He says, "I just don't get it," and Patrick says, "I don't either." But it says it twice. It says it during this scene when he's saying hi to the building, and then afterwards. So I don't know what happened with that. I don't even know how they didn't even pick that up. It's like it was just weird. But but then Patrick's trying to come up with reasons why people would be running away. He says maybe it's the way you dress, and SpongeBob's dressed and he's all shiny, and they're just like, nah, that can't be it. And then he says maybe it's your voice. And then SpongeBob just starts dying laughing. He cracks up laughing, but then he just like, good one, Patrick. Like you would go, ha ha, good one. But he does it way too long, so I think he actually thought it was funny, but then he just kind of breaks it. He's like, good one, Patrick. And then Patrick says, well, maybe it's just because you're ugly. And SpongeBob's like, you gotta be kidding me. And when he says that, like a spotlight pops down on him. And Patrick says, well, we better do the reflection test. I guess the reflection test is you're so ugly you break the mirror. So SpongeBob says hi to his reflection, and his reflection smells his breath. And SpongeBob's reflection takes a hammer and smashes the mirror and breaks it, so he doesn't have to see him anymore. And Patrick says, ugly. I like the way he said it too. And SpongeBob's like, no, I can't be ugly. I can't be. So then he tries to go and he asks a man and a woman if he's ugly, and then they smell his breath, and they hang themselves up on a fish hook and die. So then he asks somebody driving, and SpongeBob's breath is so bad that he can't see that it hurts. I think it's a guy or a girl. I don't really know, but it hurts this fish's eyes. So then he crashes. The car blows up, and the guy's gone, dead. And the police officer writes him a ticket because I guess he parked there illegally or something. He just parked in the middle of the road, and I don't think he's ever gonna pay that ticket because the guy's dead. And then the tire lands on SpongeBob, and SpongeBob's upset. And he's like, I'm ugly. So then back at his house, Patrick shows up, and it's like thundering and lightning out. And you hear somebody playing a piano, and SpongeBob asks SpongeBob to borrow some bath beads. I don't know if he said bath beads or math beads, but every time I watch it, I think this time I heard bath beads. I don't know what the hell bath beads are, but he asked to borrow them. So then he goes into SpongeBob's library. SpongeBob's playing the organ, the piano, and like he's depressed. If you heard the classic song that you would play when you're playing at a piano, then you know what I'm talking about. And Patrick's like, SpongeBob, and SpongeBob turns around and he says, "Go," and he's wearing like the glasses and the big nose to hide himself. And he's like, go, run away with all the others. And this is what he says. Nobody wants a friend as ugly as I am. And then Patrick says, sure they would. It makes him feel better about how good they look. Way to make him feel better. So then Patrick says, maybe a story will cheer you up. And I love this scene. This is one of my favorite scenes in SpongeBob. So he tells him the story about the ugly barnacle. I can quote this whole scene. Patrick says, Patrick says it's called the ugly barnacle. Once there was an ugly barnacle. He was so ugly that everyone died. The end. And then SpongeBob says, that didn't help at all. And then he asks, how long have I been ugly, Patrick? And then Patrick says, as long as I can remember, you poor ugly thing, you. Then SpongeBob says, help me! I'm spiraling, something like that. I don't remember that part that well. And then Patrick just bitch slaps him, and then SpongeBob says, "That's Patrick." And then SpongeBob starts to cry again, and Patrick goes to slap him again, and SpongeBob says, "That's okay, Patrick, spiraling over." I know I should be covering everything, but I just love that. I can just quote that scene pretty perfectly. I love that when he tells that ugly story, about the ugly barnacle. I think that's hilarious. Every time I watch it, I laugh. All my friends at high school would quote it. I think that's awesome that he does that because Patrick's so stupid that it doesn't work out for him. So then Patrick's gonna help him and get through this. So they're on SpongeBob's roof, and SpongeBob wants Patrick wants SpongeBob to say it, and SpongeBob's like, I can't. And Patrick says, SpongeBob, you're not going to feel better until you get this thin off your chest. Which means, normally what it means is if you have something you want to say, you want to get it off your chest, and you're just burning this, and to say it, then, you say it, or you have to say it, or else you won't feel the same. But he actually had something on his chest. I don't know what it was. It looked like a sucker. I can't really describe what it was, but it was like on his chest, so then he just takes it off. I thought that was like a nice touch. And it was a nice comedy moment. So SpongeBob starts to say, he says, I'm ugly and I'm proud. So then he says it louder. He continues to say it, and then Squidward hears it. He's tanning on his roof, and then Squidward says, "Is that what he calls it?" And now I'm assuming that's supposed to be like a dirty joke. Maybe SpongeBob's referencing like his dick or something. That's what I'm assuming that it means. Because if that's not what it means, then I have no idea what Squidward was talking about there. So then SpongeBob's like, that felt great. He feels empowered, and he pumps out his chest. And Patrick says, so, what do you want to do? So then they go to the movies. And Patrick bought 3 drinks, and he shared none of them with SpongeBob. What a fucking asshole. And SpongeBob says, pardon me, ugly sponge coming through, and his breath, 2 of the fishes smell his breath, and they die, and then they start to, float up to the surface, because they are underwater. So then Patrick even comes up with this excuse saying, well, it's not really an excuse, I think this is just what Patrick thinks. People respect self-esteem. So then SpongeBob talks to this other fish, I'm assuming it was like an eel or something. He says, hi, I'm very ugly, but you should enjoy the movie anyway, and then the person's face just melts off. And then he talks to this other person, asking if his ugliness he says, I hope my ugliness won't be a big distraction to you. And then the guy's like, not at all, boy. And then he smells his breath, and the way his face looked, he was like, yeah! Like, it was awesome, and then he just runs off. And then Patrick tries to say, don't worry about it, SpongeBob. Some people are just... And SpongeBob starts crying, and he's like, I just can't do this. I've tried, but I'm not always as confident as I look. Maybe I should just go back and hide. And then Patrick gets pissed, and he's like, are you afraid to look ugliness in the face? Well, here. And the movie they were watching, by the way, was like a movie from like the 1950s, because it was like all in black and white. This is 2000. They really couldn't find a movie like this time period. I guess Underwater's out of touch with what reality was watching at the time. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. So then he tells everybody to look at SpongeBob, and obviously every time SpongeBob keeps talking, and his breath is really bad, which I can't believe he still hasn't brushed his teeth at this point. Everybody runs off pretty much, and you see everybody runs off, and then you see this one guy running by himself. I thought that was funny. So SpongeBob's like, they all ran away, Patrick. So then they're gonna go to the snack bar because Patrick assumes there's no line at it, and nobody's there. Patrick just assumes they're on break, but I'm assuming what happened with this is that they smelled SpongeBob's breath too, so they took off running. So then SpongeBob remembers that he has some of his sundae that he made earlier in this episode that they can share, and the sundae smells so bad that it melted Patrick's eyebrows off. I thought that was kind of cool. and then he just eat, and they were supposed to share it, but Patrick just eats it right out of SpongeBob's hand, and then Patrick has to go to the bathroom, so then he goes off to the bathroom, and Patrick is washing his hands with one of this guy, and he asks to borrow some soap, but he keeps telling him, and obviously now Patrick has bad breath, and it makes sense for Patrick to have this problem because he just ate the sundae. It's not like he can just he carries a toothbrush in his pocket and he can just brush his teeth. SpongeBob has no excuse. He should have brushed his teeth before he left the house. I mean, it's but like what? Well, I guess it hasn't been that long. I mean, it's probably been like only a day there, so because it was like morning there, and then it turned into night. And earlier in the episode too, when SpongeBob said hi to one of the guys and he went off, SpongeBob just assumed that he was running. He's like, people are late on Sundays. I guess in their world, like SpongeBob just assumes that people don't work on Sundays because he doesn't actually work on Sunday. Which not a lot of people do work on Sunday. That's normally people's day off. But people still work on Sundays. There's people that still have to go to work at the hospital. People that still work at McDonald's sometimes. People still work on Sunday. It's not like people don't work on Sunday. So I didn't get that. But anyhow, back to the matter at hand. So Patrick tells this guy that's washing his hands, that he needs soap, but he keeps smelling his breath. So the guy just gives him his money, says, take it, and go away, and then he runs off. Which I would be happy because I just got money just to leave the guy alone. So then Patrick says, my hands aren't that dirty. I don't even think Patrick took the money. So then he told to tell these other three guys about a bathroom joke. I don't really know what the joke was going to be. Probably something inappropriate, not for kids. But then they smell his breath, so then they run off. And Patrick looks in the mirror and he's like, I know, I caught the ugly. Which I don't really get because I don't really know how Patrick saw himself differently. But then SpongeBob comes in because I guess Patrick's been in there a while, so he assumed that he wanted to check up on him, make sure he was doing okay. And he hears Patrick crying in one of the stalls. He opens up and he sees a paper bag on his head, and he tells Patrick that you gave me the ugly, which I don't think ugly's contagious, but whatever. And SpongeBob realizes it, and he starts, getting scared. And he's like, so what am I going to do? I can't go out looking like this. And SpongeBob's like, well, just remember what we talked about. There's power and pride. He's like, that may be fine for you, but I was one of the most beautiful people. He talks about how, and then SpongeBob starts smelling his breath, and Patrick's just going on this big speech about how, about the bad that is going to happen. He's like, what's my mom going to say? And he's like, oh my gosh, and my sister finds out. And he's like, oh wait, I don't have a sister. Now remember that line, because that line gets important later on in this series. And then he says that if the bank finds out, I guess he assumed that the bank wouldn't loan him money if he was ugly. But he says if the bank finds out, and SpongeBob keeps trying to tell Patrick something, and SpongeBob's like, Patrick, you're not ugly. Your breath stinks. It's really bad. And he's like, who? That's a relief. Now, the reason why Patrick didn't notice SpongeBob's breath didn't smell is because Patrick doesn't have a nose. I didn't mention that. He kept talking to Patrick, and when his breath went to Patrick, his breath, it just kind of went away. Patrick doesn't have a nose. So, yeah. So then Patrick just says, oh, what a relief. And then when he makes his breath, it's like a skeleton. So I thought that was kind of nice. It's like a skeleton head. And SpongeBob asks him, what did you eat, Patrick? And Patrick says, some roast beef, some chicken, and pizza. And then SpongeBob says, no, I mean just this morning. Then he says the same thing. And then he's like, what else? And he's like, I had some of your sundae. And then SpongeBob's like, sundae. So then he realizes that his sundae just gave them bad breath. So they're not ugly, they just stink. And they're happy about that. They start chanting, and then the breath smells so bad that it melts the movie theater, what they call the reef. And then they go to tell Squidward about it, and Squidward was looking at a wig and hairpiece because he wants to get hair because he's bald. And then they're happy about it, and then they run off, and then the show goes off the air. That was the end of the episode. And I did enjoy this episode. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was pretty entertaining. There was some good stuff in this episode, so I did enjoy this episode. It was nice to watch. That's my review of this SpongeBob episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to leave your thoughts and comments about this episode, you're welcome to. And if you want to check out my other channel, CM Brothers, which I'll leave the link up there, I'm going to be reviewing Ted 2 tonight. I'm going to see that movie tonight. I'm looking forward to that. And if you want to subscribe to my channel, down below for some other content on this channel, like SpongeBob and other things, you can feel free to do that. Another thing is down below, you can check out the SpongeBob Squarepants series playlist. I reviewed every single SpongeBob episode, and it's on that playlist, so that you can check that out. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. All I have to say is, peace out.